Hi everyone, and welcome to this presentation where we'll talk about marketing messages. So how to make the right first impression from a client's first point of contact with you. So for an overview in this presentation, we will talk about how your marketing messages can signal inclusivity to the trans and gender diverse community. We'll review some sites that do this particularly well, either toward the trans and gender diverse community or do a really great job of speaking to their audience. We'll review sort of a menu of options you have for your own kind of minimum viable website. Nothing fancy. Doesn't have to be that complex to do a good job for LGBTQIA+ inclusivity. And I'll also show you how you can have your website reviewed by us if that's something that you're interested in. Let's talk a little bit about how this fits into your own roadmap for yourself or for your practice. So the goal of working with your marketing messages is to increase the explicit signals of inclusivity to this community on your online presence. So whether this is a listing site or a website, that is a goal for this presentation and what we want to show you how to do. And what this can lead to are sort of the next things. So after you have some more explicit signals, specialists who work with this population will start to see that you're doing and saying the right things. You'll then be able to network with them more confidently. They're able to send you clients. Then, of course, you do excellent work with those clients. You knock it out of the park for them. And after that point, word of mouth referrals from queer and trans clients and specialists are able to sustain your ability to continue serving the population. So this is really step one for that roadmap. And again, so just a reminder that these are some of the red flags that we're looking for as we're looking online for new providers. So we're asking ourselves, is this a safe place to go? Are they going to ask me offensive or invasive questions? Will people understand how to use my name or pronouns when I go by and what's on my documents is different? Are people going to stare at me in the waiting room? How much work am I going to have to do in educating my providers here? What do I need to say or omit from my story to get the care I need? And how much will I need to protect myself here? So those are some of the red flags and things we're asking ourselves. But then green flags, so what are some of the positive signs we're looking for? Do folks at this practice know the right words to use around trans issues? Do they list their pronouns anywhere? Do they say anything about working with queer and trans folks? Are any pride stickers, pride flags anywhere? Am I seeing any evidence of training or education on trans competency? Is there a statement of providers' identities and recognition of privilege? This, if you're able to see this, then it denotes that, okay, someone here has taken a look at where their bias might be, where their position is in relation to this community. So maybe they have some humility. And then next, right, do they come across as humble and respectful? Are there any queer or trans people who work here? And underlying it all, do they seem like they get it? So when it comes to marketing to a community, and especially marketing to a community that's marginalized, if you're not part of that community, I think there are some myths or limiting beliefs that can come up. So let's just go ahead and address those. So I think one myth that's really understandable and I think very popular is that learning how to market myself to queer and trans folks is exploitative to them if I'm not part of the community. Completely understand how you might have this belief or someone might have this belief. But I mean, the thing is, here's what I think the truth is. If you learn how to communicate to us well, right, I'm going to encourage you to do this in a very ethical and deeply informed way. When you do this well, you're putting yourself in our shoes. You're building empathy that's going to better serve the clinical relationship. This is not a lesson on how to gouge the LGBTQIA+ community and say the right things, but then do the wrong things, right? That would be kind of sleazy, right? I am not out here to help people exploit my community. I want to help you communicate your message so that it'll be heard. And doing that requires putting yourself in our shoes and having some empathy. And then the second myth is that I should really only market to LGBTQIA+ people if I specialize in this work. So this can look a couple of different ways, right? So this myth could really be about, well, I don't specialize in this, so I don't want to mislead people in thinking that this is my specialty by putting anything about working with queer and trans folks on my website. So it could look that way. That could be the thought. Or I think more commonly, people don't specialize in this and they don't want to alienate other populations by overrepresenting the presence of language around queer and trans folks on their website. So I think that there's use discernment into which category you feel like you fall under, and there are definitely some considerations to think about for both of those sides. But here's the main truth about this myth, is that marketing yourself to the queer and trans community allows both clients and specialists in this area to learn about you and what you have to offer. So you don't need to be a specialist. We just basically need more people we can trust to do their work with queer and trans folks. I promise you, there are ways to increase the explicit language that you use to make sure you know that, or to make sure we know that you see us as part of the world without directly marketing to the community and the community alone. You can still be open to other folks and leave space for us without looking like you're a specialist. But taking a step back, right, what are we trying to do? Like, what does effective marketing actually accomplish? Well, in general, effective marketing does the following, right? It speaks to your target audience, it builds credibility and trust, encourages some engagement with you, and it enhances the visibility to you and your services. At a basic level, this is what you're trying to accomplish with anything that you have online about yourself or about your practice. So we're just going to talk about how to apply effective marketing principles to the queer and trans community. So what does effective marketing to this community look like? Well, I would say here are your objectives. When you are trying to communicate that you see us and you are open to seeing us as your clients, what you want to do is answer the specific questions we have. When we're considering new providers, you need to understand what those questions are. Again, looking back to the red flags, green flags slides. You want to be able to speak to our pain points and or our experiences in seeking care in the past, which often can be the same thing. You want to demonstrate that we're visible to you as part of default humanity, that we're not exceptional, that we're not alternative. So I have a good example of this, being exceptional or alternatives. This is not about a practice, but this is about someone I know who was applying for jobs and looking for places that would be welcoming, like looking for places that would be inclusive. And this person was in academia and was queer. And so as he was looking for jobs, every university has sort of a non-discrimination statement, right, that they have to have there by law. And many of them were pretty much the same. But there was one university it was a religious institution that had a very clear exception around how they talked about queer and trans folks as opposed to talking about race, religion, or other protected groups that they couldn't discriminate against. So it sort of had its standard, we do not discriminate on the base of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, age, marital status, what have you. And then there was sort of a comma and then a dependent clause. And it said, and according to national law or something like that, we also do not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. So that was pretty clear, right? Like they put it in there, but it was separate from the original message of we do not tolerate discrimination or participate in discrimination. And also, because they made us say this, we don't discriminate on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. So that one statement, essentially, he crossed that off his list for places he would consider taking a job because of the implicit message in that. So when I say demonstrating that we're visible to you as part of default humanity, that's sort of what I mean. That's part of it, right? Like, don't put us in some sort of dependent clause. And also, we work with queer and trans folks. Like, just make sure that we're centered as part of everyone else. So effective marketing is not the following, right? It's not claiming yourself as an ally or a safe space. That's very self-focused, and it can get you into hot water pretty quickly because we tend to be defensive when we claim ourselves as allies and then engage in behaviors that can be harmful. Effective marketing is also not communicating a specialty that you don't have. This is sort of combating that myth. By effectively marketing to us, you're not saying that you are a specialist in working with this community. You're really just saying that I see you and I think I could be a safe place for you to go, and here's why. And effective marketing is not quickly checking a box either. I see many providers who just sort of quickly check the box to make sure they appear to be inclusive. That's sort of the checking off LGBTQ plus issues. And to me, I don't know what that means. I don't know what LGBTQ plus issues means when you say that you work with it. To me, that means you didn't know what else to say and you just wanted to check it off to make sure you didn't seem like you were discriminating. But you actually have no idea how to work with us, and you're likely to make some of those major mistakes, and I'm likely going to have to educate you on how to work with me. So this is what I want to make clear, that effective and ethical marketing doesn't do any of these things. It doesn't make you claim yourself as an ally or a safe space. It's not ethical to communicate a specialty that you don't have, and it's not really effective at all to just quickly check the box to make sure that we're visible to you somehow. So there are some better ways to do this. So for a typical website for a service provider, we can talk about various areas where you can signal inclusivity. So what I'll go over here is how you can do so on a home page, on an about page or an our team page if this is a group practice, a services page, a resources page, a blog or writing if you have one. We'll talk about backlinks and how to use pops of pride in places. And later we'll also talk about a frequently asked questions page as well. So first, let's go over the homepage. So first for the homepage, right? This is where people land at default when they get to your website. So on the homepage, you're answering the basic questions of, does this practice see me? And are there some signs that they get it?